Hey there, lovely. If you're a driven and highly ambitious woman who has checked all the boxes, followed all the rules, only to realize you don't actually feel fulfilled or you don't feel like you're living your purpose, then you are absolutely in the right place. My name is Melissa Chavis. I'm an intuitive mindset coach, and I am absolutely obsessed with helping you discover your true purpose, that thing you were put here on this earth to do, so that you can live the most fulfilling and abundant life possible. Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that was kind of a pretty big blind spot for me for most of my life. Because I think it's really important to fully see yourself and understand the way you've been behaving and moving through life in order to get to kind of the root cause of those behaviors and to understand why you've been moving through life in that way up to this point. If you want to make changes and if you want to start behaving differently and, creating a new future for yourself. And I think ultimately, if you're listening, that's probably what you'd like to do. You have some reason that you would like to create change in your life. And so I think it's really, really important to find those blind spots and really figure out what is beneath them and why we're moving through life in that way, why we're behaving that way. So today I want to talk about being a high achiever. I was probably in my 30s before I ever actually identified with this term. It wasn't until I really started doing some of that searching and kind of digging below the surface of my behaviors and understanding why I was getting the results that I had been getting in life. It truly had never occurred to me that this was even a thing. I don't think I'd even really heard the term, or if I did, I didn't identify with it. I didn't acknowledge it. So once I heard the term and I found out what it meant, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's exactly what I've been doing. Essentially, this way of behaving, this way of moving through life just felt normal to me, right? It was just how I had been wired. It's how I had moved through my entire life. It's the way I lived. And I really thought like it's just the way that I am, not even understanding that I was that way because I was essentially told that that was the way to be. Of course, not in those words exactly, but through life, I had learned that this is how you proceed through life. And so that's why I was showing up in that way. Ultimately, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just who I am. And so I think that's really important to kind of distinguish those things too. So essentially, throughout the majority of my life, there were a set of rules. First of all, you always follow the rules. And the rules were you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you go to college, you get good grades there so that you can graduate there and get a good job and then do exactly as you're told in your job so that you can get a promotion and you can continue achieving certain milestones and essentially getting more and more success, right? Achieving everything, always doing as you're told, always showing up in the way that others expect you to show up in life. And that was it. That was what I thought was just that's how you live life. That's what you do, right? That's what everybody does. That's the whole goal. That's the objective. That's what we're here to do. And at the same time, if I ever made a mistake or if I didn't meet someone else's expectations, I felt terrible and I felt like I had truly let them down and beat myself up for it for, days, weeks, even months at some points because I just felt like I was a failure and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And it felt terrible. And it really, really weighed on me every time it happened. And then, of course, I had a really hard time admitting that to anyone else, too. I mean, I had a really hard time admitting that I had made a mistake, messed up, or had failed on something, because ultimately I thought, well, they're obviously going to see me as a failure too. And then, of course, with all of the imposter syndrome going on, I thought they're going to see me as a fraud. They're going to know that I really don't know what I'm doing, and I am really just a screw up, and I'm a failure, and they'll know that now. But that the whole imposter syndrome thing, that's a topic for another day. So we'll get into that later.
Hey there. What if I told you that I have the exact roadmap that will take you from feeling unfulfilled, stuck, and overwhelmed to living a life that is truly meaningful and filled with purpose? Well, I'm super excited to announce the release of my brand new masterclass called The Clarity Code: 3 Steps to Discover Your Passion and Unlock More Meaning in Your Life. So if you're ready to finally figure out what you're meant to do in this life and how you can feel incredibly fulfilled in your day-to-day life, you can go ahead and click the link in the show notes below. Access this brand new masterclass right now.
But essentially, failure, feeling like I had made a mistake, was just off the table. I mean, I couldn't let that happen. And then it wasn't until I had gotten to this point in my life where I had achieved all the things that I were on my life goals checklist, and I started to feel like, well, what do I achieve now? What's the next goal? Because obviously, where else am I going to get more external validation? Like, I've done all the things, I've gotten all the accolades, and now it kind of feels like there aren't anymore, because, I'm just at this steady state where I'm not creating more success and achieving more things and getting more recognition for it. I was just kind of in this place of consistency, and that actually felt kind of terrible, because I had gone from one achievement to the next, getting higher and higher and higher in my life goals. And now I was just at this plateau, basically, and I felt really empty. And that's when I really started searching for, well, what is my next achievement? What's the next goal I can meet? And it ultimately ended up taking me on a journey that was unexpected, but absolutely what I really needed, and what ultimately got me to where I am today, where I am truly living a life that feels internally fulfilling and feels meaningful for me, and where I'm doing something that I enjoy and the thing that I really want to do. And it's not based on what anyone else thinks I should be doing. I don't have fear over other people seeing me fail or make a mistake, because I just don't view it that way anymore. And so ultimately it led to a very good outcome, but it started from a place where I just really felt like, what else am I supposed to do now? What other achievement is there? I think that a lot of you are probably finding yourself in the same place at this point, because you've done all the things, you've achieved the success that you thought would really make you feel fulfilled and internally happy, and it just doesn't feel that way. You're wondering, is this it? Is this what I was doing all these things for? Is to get to this point where I feel this way? That just doesn't quite seem right. And so today I want to talk about identifying whether or not maybe you're also a high achiever, and working through some of that to see what might be on the other side for you as well. Okay, so how do you know if you're a high achiever? Well, number one, you feel a constant need for achievement. You are living your life from one milestone to the next, achieving one thing after the other. You're following all the rules, you're a hard worker, you get the job done ultimately. And this is probably something that's been going on since childhood for you. I know for most of us, that's the case. It's kind of just how we've lived our life to this point. And so it probably feels pretty normal. Like, this is just me. It's who I am, right? Also, as it relates to work, probably you're that person that everyone knows. If we need something to really get done, we can have her do it, right? They always know they can count on you. You will be there to pick up someone else's slack. You're the one that they can count on because you're a hard worker and you're going to get it done. And a lot of times, this need for achievement directs a lot of the decisions that you're making in life. You probably are navigating your way through life based on this need for achievement, this idea that there is some next bigger goal that you need to achieve in life. And when you've achieved that next big thing, you feel really good about yourself. It feels amazing to get all of those accolades and recognition from other people, and it feels like, oh, I'm doing it, I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do. That is what makes you feel good. But on the other hand, if you do make a mistake, or maybe you don't meet that goal or achieve that thing that you were after, it feels really terrible, and you really beat yourself up, and you can go into this place of feeling really crappy for a long period of time sometimes. And it's like this sort of a roller coaster. If you're achieving things, you feel good. If you miss the mark a little, you feel really, really bad inside. And all of these internal emotions that you're having are kind of based on sort of what's happening externally for you and the feedback that you're getting from other people. Okay, so number two is perfectionism and fear of failure. So I kind of touched on the perfectionism a little bit. And it's essentially that you have a really hard time doing anything unless you feel like you can truly do it really well, right? And you have a really hard time moving on from a task or project if you don't feel like you've given your absolute best product that you could possibly give in that situation. And it can keep you stuck. It can keep you in a cycle of kind of procrastination at times, even because you want to do it the best that you possibly can. And if you feel like that's not possible right now, you kind of will put something off till the future. And then it really relates to this fear of failure too, right? Because ultimately, the reason that you want to deliver the best product possible or achieve this goal at the highest possible level is because you're afraid that other people might see you fail at it. If other people recognize that you weren't able to do the thing or you didn't accomplish that goal, then you're worried, like, what are they going to think? They're going to see me as a failure. And then you see yourself as a failure based on sort of these thoughts of what other people might think, essentially. And a lot of times it's going to hold you back from actually trying something new, something that you aren't 100% sure that you can fully accomplish and do it really, really well because you're fearful that maybe you won't be able to. Maybe you won't be able to make this thing work or make it happen. And then other people will see you fail at it. And that's like the worst possible outcome in your mind is having other people think that you're a failure because you're not a failure. You're someone who achieves things and makes things happen. And so it can really, really hold you back. I was in that place for years. Once I did figure out what I wanted, once I got to the point where I knew I wanted to be a coach, I held myself back from even trying to do that, from even trying to start a business for years because I thought, well, I've never started a business before. I don't know if I can do it. I'm not 100% sure that I can actually make this work. And what if it does fail? What if I can't make it work? What are other people going to think? They're going to see me as a failure. And I let it hold me back for so long. And that is very typical of someone who is a high achiever. Number three is you frequently seek out external validation. So when you are getting the praise, the accolades, getting titles maybe at work or getting acknowledged for doing something well, that is what lights you up. That is where you get your sense of fulfillment, essentially. That's where you feel like, oh, I've done it, I've made it, I feel good about myself. It's all coming from these basically external sources. It's all coming from this feedback that you're getting outside of you. And there's really no sense of internal fulfillment. There's really no sense of like, I'm doing this thing and I'm doing it for myself and it feels good. It's all about what are the things that I should be doing based on these external sources. And then when I do them, it feels really good and I feel really good about myself. I spent years here. I mean, I truly years. I spent most of my life there. And I think that's ultimately what ended up leading to me kind of going on this journey of self-discovery and knowing myself more because I got to the point where I had achieved all of those things and I wasn't getting as much external validation as I had been while I was kind of climbing that ladder and doing all of the things. I was done having kids. I was already married. I had a house. I had the title at work. I had the six-figure salary. I had all of those things that I had gotten so much external validation for. And it was like, well, now what? What else am I going to achieve in life? Like, these were all the things that I thought I wanted. And so, what else do I do now? And it felt really empty. And I didn't feel good anymore because I wasn't getting that consistent feedback from other people about all the things that I was accomplishing. And finally, number 4 is the constant cycle of burnout. So, you've essentially been conditioned to push through and work through all of the challenges and make it happen. So much so that even when you're feeling exhausted and tired and need to take time to rest, you don't do it because you're just pushing through. You're making it happen. You're doing all of the things that you're supposed to be doing to achieve this goal, get this accomplishment. And you just basically kind of ignore all of those signals internally that are like, you need to take a break, you need to take a rest, until finally your body is like, look, you need to take a break, you need to rest. And so you'll get sick or you'll just really start to feel unable to physically like function and go through the day to day in this sort of high functioning manner that you're typically used to. And truly your body will finally just say, look, like you're done. You need to take a break. And then you're at this point of burnout. You're just truly completely exhausted. And it just happens over and over again. Like you will get to that point where you're just like, for me, it was getting sick. I would get sick. And thinking back to one of the leaders in my organization when I was working my 9 to 5, this was exactly what happened to her. She would just go, 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 go for like 2 months. And then she would get so sick, like truly, really, really sick to where she was not functioning at all for like a week because her body was like, look, you need to slow down. You need to take a break. And I'm going to force you to, essentially. And so it would happen to me as well. I would just feel like I'm just so tired and I can't even function at the level that I need to function. And I would just spend a week in this place of just, I'm so drained, I'm so burnt out, I can't keep doing this. Until, I started to feel a little bit better. My body got the rest that it needed. And I just go back to the exact same cycle. And it just happened over and over again. And likely, if you are a high achiever, you're probably experiencing something very similar. It's actually really interesting because since I've quit my 9 to 5 and I've been working in my business full time, one of the things that I noticed was, oh my gosh, I don't get sick as often. I don't go through these periods as frequently as I did before. And so I think that's really interesting that it's like my body now gets the rest and the downtime that it really needs in order to be able to fully function. Okay, so if you're still here and you've been nodding along the whole time, you're probably wondering, okay, it sounds like this might be me. What do I do now? So it really all starts with first acknowledging that maybe you've been moving through life this way. Maybe this is how you've been behaving for most of your life. And then it kind of moves to this place of redefining success for yourself and digging a little deeper to understand your own core values and what will actually feel meaningful to you in your life outside of what anyone else might be thinking. It's basically peeling away the layers of unhelpful beliefs and thoughts that have been running through your subconscious mind your entire life. And so, of course, having said that, then it's a process and it does take time because you can't just all of a sudden one day decide that you don't believe any of the things that you've believed your whole life and now you're going to believe something different. And so I think we hear a lot about mindset and having the right mindset. And I think that that is incredibly important. And I think it's not quite so easy. It's very simple. The concept is simple. You just need to change the way you think about stuff, but it's not easy. So it is a process to really dig deeper and understand all of those beliefs and thoughts that have been driving your action up to this point, and then understanding the thoughts and behaviors that you will need to display to get you to the point where you want to go. This is the process that I go through with my clients in my coaching business. We work through kind of unlearning, digging deeper, getting to the core of what really matters to them and understanding their values and getting rid of all of those beliefs about what anyone else might think, because ultimately it's not important. And if you really want to do something in life, you can't be afraid that you might fail based on other people's expectations or their definition of failure. You have to be able to understand that moving in whatever direction you're going is important to you, and it just doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about that path for you. It's all about what you think about the path and what you're trying to accomplish in life, right? So basically, it's all about uncovering sort of the root cause of the issue and then treating that so that you can then start moving through life in a different way. If you want to create true and lasting change, you need to change the way that you are behaving and the way that you're moving through life ultimately. All right, so how can you get started doing that today? What I recommend is sitting down tonight before bed for just 10 minutes. You can do 10 minutes, right? Before you go to bed, sit down with a journal and a pen and just write about your day. Just get your thoughts and anything you want to write about, whatever it is that comes out, get it all out on paper in front of you. Get it out of your head. That is truly the first step to really starting to analyze it and starting to understand it better, is to just get it out of your head and start really viewing it maybe from a different perspective. But essentially, first step, sit down for 10 minutes with a journal and just write about your day. And then see how you feel afterwards. See if that was helpful. What changed by getting it out of your head and onto paper in front of you? And I think that you'll see that there is something to this. It's helpful to just get it out of your brain and stop all the swirling thoughts and this constant, spinning and going, right? To help you get a different perspective ultimately. All right. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this message resonated with you, I would love to hear your feedback. And if you do decide to do the journaling, let me know. What did you think? Do you feel like it was helpful? Is journaling something that you do regularly? Are you feeling like you're ready for that next step? Let me know. I'd love to hear it, and I hope you have a great day. That's it for another episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you found it helpful, I'd love to hear from you. You can do that by liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel or rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you're listening.